where 543 workers, I understand, are still beneath the surface. Unions disagreeing on what exactly is going on. The NUM claims it's a hostage situation, but Amcu says it's a sit-in, a voluntary sit-in by those who want the union to be recognized as a valid labour formation at that union. Well, let's speak now with labour analyst Tony Healy. A very good evening to you, Tony. Good to have your time. So if the issue here is indeed a fight over some workers wanting recognition and wanting to migrate to Amcu, how is it supposed to run legally?
Yeah, good evening. Well, there are very clear guidelines in the Labour Relations Act as to how to deal with a scenario where you have competing unions in a single workplace. And both of those unions will have dealt with those provisions before. We certainly deal with them with clients across the country. And it's a fairly straightforward process where there are verification exercises conducted regarding who belongs to who when, and then calculations are done regarding levels of representation, and then from there you again go back to the Labour Relations Act to see, well, what levels of representation qualify for what rights. So there's really no reason for this kind of behavior that we're seeing unfolding.
Well, according to Amcu, at least in the interview they gave to us last night, they were saying that much of the frustration among the workers at Gold One has to do with the fact that, by their version, there's been collusion between the rival union, the NUM, and mine management, who want to keep the NUM in place, and that's why we've seen this rather distressing situation. How do we resolve it when it's reached this level? How do we address this crisis, basically?
Well, Temakita, you get that all the time. You get union rivalry on site. You've got unions, as you have in this case, different federations, different ideologies, different persuasions, different alignments. And when you have two or more, often, unions competing for membership in a single workplace, it's not at all uncommon for there to be claims and counterclaims around who's misbehaving and who's doing what. There would need to be a factual investigation into that, and people, institutions like the CCMA can help with that. But the fact that Union A is accusing Union B of colluding with employer C, that's not unusual. It's really just a manifestation of the kind of often really serious conflict that you see in workplaces when two unions, as we have in this case, are competing for membership within that workplace.
You referenced the CCMA. Are they the first port of call in trying to resolve this? And I wonder how quick their processes might be, because if the anger on site is such that people are willing to stay underground from Sunday, it's Tuesday night now, and remain seemingly unshaken, there's clearly a need for urgent intervention or resolution.
Yeah, look, the CCMA are very good at these sorts of things. They're very experienced. They've got some excellent conciliators and mediators. And my understanding is, I speak under correction, but my understanding is the CCMA actually has someone on site or en route to the mine. So indications are that they are beginning to get involved. And, they have expertise. And I would expect that if they did become involved, that they would be able to inch everybody towards some form of resolution.
And who's responsible, Tony, for the well-being of these miners, especially when you consider that we're dealing with two narratives here? The NUM says this is basically a case where people have been taken against their will, forced to be part of what Amcu says is a sit-in. Over 540 mine workers, we're told, are now underground. It's almost, 2 days on. We don't know what they're doing for food, what they're doing for water, etc. Who ultimately is responsible for their well-being?
Well, look, everybody is. First and foremost, the mine. But, of course, if the mine owner's hands are tied due to the behavior of Union A or Union B, then, that's, you have that conundrum. Look, everybody is responsible. The miners themselves, both unions, and mine management. But you've got the disconnect between the four of those really role players. And that's why you've got such a fluid, such a dangerous situation. I mean, it really couldn't be worse. We're talking about miners underground. I heard a report today that there may have been some interference with ventilation shafts. So, the the health and safety of these workers is, as you pointed out, is paramount, and sanity needs to prevail, and hopefully the CCMA can bring that to this very serious situation.
Just on health and safety then, Tony, what does the law empower the employer perhaps to do, or even labor, in terms of, I don't know, I don't want to say break up the sit-in, but trying to go down there, negotiate, or perhaps start a process of bringing people up to the surface? Because one of the people we spoke to was the wife of a worker who's there. She says her husband needs to take chronic medication, and she's now concerned with the passage of time about what will become of his health.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and you can imagine that it's a deep mine. You know, you're looking at 500 odd people, a tense scenario, union rivalry. You know, whether it is a sit-in or whether it's a hostage situation, to be honest, it doesn't matter. It's very serious. There'll be many individuals down there who, for example, need daily chronic medication. They're going to need food. They're going to need proper ventilation. They're going to need water. And who knows what else in terms of health and safety issues. So it's a most unusual set of circumstances. You know, if you look across our country, you know, we've been involved in many years, decades in the labor relations area, and I can't think of another scenario where you've had this set of circumstances where so many, you know, few hundred miners underground feuding with each other. You know, at the end of the day, as I say, whether it's a hostage situation or whether it's a sit-in, it really is unprecedented and extremely complex.
Labour analyst Tony Healy, good to have your time. Thank you very much for your insights tonight on News at Prime.